wanted to welcome everybody here. It's great to see so many of you interested in this topic. For those of you I haven't met, or either today or some other occasion, my name is Tana Marie Rogers. I work at the Point Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve up there in Falmouth, and I'm the Coastal Training Program Coordinator here. I'm involved in this workshop today because we've been working with the town and other partners, Town of Falmouth, on this and planning this event.
Eco-toilets can be for a lot of things, certainly for water conservation, possibility of nutrient recycling, certainly some of the things that you've heard, they get you all excited and they get me excited too, believe me, this is what I live for, what I do. The biggest question we have, and the biggest question Falmouth has to approach it from, is what is the effect of using eco-toilets on the nutrient loading that can occur. So as we see how these toilets work, how they function, what the residuals are, how you can manage the residuals, there's always one piece left, and so you pointed out some literature to give us an indication, but it's the gray water. What is in the gray water? And we've also heard a question from the Sierra Club as far as you handle the residuals, what will you do about some of those contaminants of emerging concern? Pharmaceuticals in particular, but as we deal with the gray water, we still have to deal with personal care products as well as more pharmaceuticals. So, what we've done, the county is trying to support the project in a number of ways. One is the sort of support for putting in eco-toilets. We're about to make some adjustments to the policy of the SRF funds, those are state revolving funds, which allow us to make loans to people who want to replace their failing septic systems. We are sort of mandated only to replace failing septic systems, but the fund has also allowed us to collect some administrative fees, which will allow us over the next year to loan out about $300,000 to those people who want to put in eco-toilets prior to their system failing. What does that mean? Well, what that means is, under the code, if you have an existing Title V system and it's functioning, it's not failed, you can use that for your gray water. So the only thing you're really changing then is the eco-toilet. Your plumbing leaving the house going into your standard Title V system can be used. However, if it's failed, you can't use it. So what we're trying to do is support this program with a zero-interest loan for those who want to put in an eco-toilet prior to their system failing. We're also sort of trying to work with the state legislature in trying to change the law that gives you a tax credit. There is a tax credit, did you know that? If your system fails, you could get a tax credit for replacing it. And that's, what, $6,000, $1,500 a year for 4 years, up to 60% of the cost of the system. Is that right, Matt?
Yes, and I just also want to mention that new legislation has been filed to eliminate that requirement
for failed
right. Septic system.
And it's appropriate, because if you want to do the right thing, why shouldn't you be helped to do it? Particularly because it puts a little inconvenience your way. Now, as far as the measurements on the systems, we're concerned about the gray water. And I know there's studies out there that say 70%, 80%, 90% of all the nutrients are what comes out of our body through the various pores. However, there is still what we wash with, and how many here wash your hair with a protein wash, for instance? Yeah, right. Yeah, you'd lie about other things too. How many pee in the shower? I never get anybody raise their hands and I'd say half of you are lying. Half of you are lying. And the other half are going, oh God, how did you know? But those are the realities. The realities are, if we're going to go through all this bother, and that bother is toward targeting a nutrient, we better make darn sure we're doing it right. I I test alternative septic systems. I've done that for the last 10 years. It's been my life. I breathe that stuff. And people always say, well, George, you just don't like alternative septic systems because you say they don't work. And I say, no, I never tell you they don't work. I tell you how they work. Because we need to know the number, what's left in the gray water. So in order to do that, what we're doing out there for every of the participants, for 2 months prior to the installation of the system, we're collecting your septic tank effluent. That is the effluent right before it goes into the leach field. We're collecting it and measuring the nitrogen. In this program, your system gets pumped out and cleaned, and then what comes into it after your toilet is installed should be only your gray water, whatever goes down your pipes. And I love the thing about the 5 teenagers. I love that because I've never seen my daughter clean a plate that she didn't try to jam every last one of those beans down the sink so she wouldn't have to scrape them. But those, again, are the realities. So what we're going to be doing is looking at, for 10 successive months after somebody puts one in, the measurements in their gray water. Now what we should be able to determine by that, in conjunction with their water use records, is how much they have reduced the load of nitrogen and phosphorus by using an eco-toilet. That's the whole goal there. Should we do more measurement? Absolutely, but what we did do is sit down with Brian Dudley, who will get up here later on and tell you a little bit about his sort of slant on it, and said, what will make state regulators comfortable? How much data will we have to generate? Because data are very valuable in this regard. You need to know how much is still coming in. So 10 times afterwards, 10 months, successive months after each of the installations, we'll view the stability of the data, how it looks like. Is it all over the board? Is it, you know, the elder couple versus a couple of teenagers? The loads shift all over because they haven't told the teenagers about that, not peeing in the shower or jamming the beads down the sink or whatever it is. So once we determine the stability of the data, which may, who knows, after about 20 installations, may show very stable numbers and say, yeah, I think we can rely on these. We've got it bracketed. We know how much. And after that, we'll be able to determine what the load reductions really are. I hope they're great, because with all that we've heard about the composting toilets and the eco-toilets, we know that they have a lot of other benefits. I'm particularly excited at what might happen as the state moves forward with their organics management plan. We heard this morning from the Cohasset? Oh, the brain is shrinking. Cohasset Health Agent that by 2014, a lot of the large producers of organic waste are going to have to either start sending them to digesters or composters. The state is about to remove or try to get removed from the waste stream a lot of other organics. The food waste, the paper waste, anything organic, obviously. Now, as they go from 2014, where there are set goals with the larger establishments, they're going to go to 2020, where just about every organic coming out of households will have to find its way to an organic digester, composter, or other means of some type of recovery. Well, that's going to be right in the pocket of what happens as we start using composting toilets, as we use urine diverting toilets, because guess what? This isn't nuclear waste coming out of our anal porch here. This is just organic waste, and that might be an appropriate place to try to feed it in. Now, there are still some other issues. As I said, nutrients is one. Nutrients is one. I thought you were just waving. I thought, hey, I got somebody who knows me. I knew it wasn't my daughter, because she would have had a baby. So anyhow, where was I? I got lost. Okay. As far as where we go from here is get the data together, find out what the deal is with nutrients, look at some of the pharmaceuticals and personal care products. Silent Spring, I believe, well, you're here, you could speak a little or talk to in the crowd about what you'll be doing with some of the residuals, the tea, the compost tea. I know some people don't like it called that. Actually, it looks more like coffee, but that which is the liquid draining from the compost. Some people who use foam flush toilets, for instance, if we get foam flush toilets, they create a little bit more liquid. So where you dispose of that, the pharmaceuticals are going to be important there. We will probably try to do a little on the gray water because, as we heard, fire retardants, some of the fire retardants, which is in laundry water, those are particularly hard to break down in the environment. So we'll find out what's residual there. Won't hold it against the eco-toilets because one thing they will do and package very well will be the pharmaceuticals we take through our mouths. Not the ones we throw down the sink, but certainly the ones we take into our body. So that's pretty much it. We're about to set up a statistical plan to get data that will tell us what the efficacy is for removing of nutrients. Because among all the great other things these things do, I hope they do that also. So that's it. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Oh, keep it
This is David. Now, well, since you're going to gather data for 10 months, how long is it going to take you to convert this data into useful information, not only for the state regulators and the Water Quality Management Committee, but the wider group of citizens there in Falmouth?
Well, the nice thing about data as we're collecting it is you get a view of the stability of it. If, for instance, the first 10 samples we collect from gray water shows dead on the same nitrogen load, that is concentration times volume water used. Boy, that would be sweet. I have a feeling it's going to be bouncing around a bit. But the data will come as quick as we get it. And as good and as competent as I believe I am at interpreting data, these data will be publicly available. For instance, our department right now makes available to anybody who wants it all the data from Innovative Alternative Systems on Cape Cod. Did you know that? Just check onto our site, check the technology you want to check the town you want to do it. It'll give you a graph of all the data in that town, right up to date. And so we'll do a very similar thing with this project because it's public funds, it's public information. You should know it, you can have it. And if you really love to digest data on wastewater, possibly a bad metaphor there. I'll work on that. It'll be available for you. Yes?
George, if beans down the sink and protein wash shampoos and peeing in the shower are statistically significant, and I trust you that they are, then isn't the dedication of the users and education important?
Absolutely.
And the people you're getting for these studies are the cream of the crop of dedication.
I think the people in the study are going to be certainly those who are leaning toward that end of the graph. But I've already sampled a couple systems. I'm going to tell you, just from my experience of looking at a lot of septic tanks in my life, these are not the cream of the crop. In fact, that metaphor didn't even come close to going in my head on that one.
Very good.
I said, yes, there are some objects in here that, phew.
Just to add to that, I don't think we want educated people for the study. I think we want to get a broad cross-section.
And I think that's what Steve was saying, rather than we don't want them, I can guarantee you, at least what I've seen so far, we're not getting them. No, you know, can we talk? What happens in your bathroom, is it really published? What happens in your sink, I mean, it's like the voting booth. Once they go and shut that door, you don't know what they're putting away. And some people will be very conscientious. And other people are going to say, it's a voting booth, for God's sakes. I can do anything I want in here. Yeah, sorry, I digress.
So related to that, how are you going to account for the 2 to 3 months a year tourist population that is so significant here?
Well, I believe that at least one of the persons we've already sampled mentioned how they will have an influx of people, and I think Wynn is sort of working out some sort of survey so we can correlate what they're doing with what we're seeing, because I believe the data will definitely bounce. When you get somebody who's not from Cape Cod down here, you say the phrase, hey, let it mellow. They go, let what mellow? How many here don't know what that means? Don't raise your hand, you'll be embarrassed. If it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's round, flush it down. Come on! We have to interview this person, right? I don't know. The fact is, we are going to have to do that. It's good. I take that one home. But anyhow.
George,
Yes.
where are you taking your samples from now, the pre-system?
The septic tank effluent. Now,
Before it
I'm
goes
trying
into
to,
the tank?
yeah, before it goes into the leach fields. That's where we want to do it. At the D-box, or if we can't get to the D-box, the outlet T, because that'll get me down into that. Anybody really like this stuff? I'll tell you. Get you down into the clear liquid, and we're making sure we're trying to get not too much of solids, because we know, generally TSS coming out of the tank is about 50, and that's about what our samples are looking like. Yes?
So then if you're doing the effluent, are you disqualifying anyone who has like a fast system or one of those systems currently?
Yes. I don't believe we have any treatment units in there. And if we do, we'll have to, we are flying a little light here in that we have people, for instance, with 2 cesspools. So, figuring out where to get a representative from that 2 cesspools. If one of them's failed and is acting like a solids retention tank, that's a piece of cake. The gray water, we're going to have to jury something up to get a good representative gray water sample, because if they have a cesspool, you're not going to clean a cesspool up. There's no way. You're going to pump it out. You pump clean water into that, that thing's going to show nutrients like crazy as it comes back out. So case by case, we will work a way to get a representative gray water sample. And the cesspools are going to be the hardest one to do it at. We're going to have to catch it on the inlet tee, and we may have to set up a composite sampler. It'll be a lot better than trying to do that with raw wastewater with poop coming down the line, because anytime you want to take a sample there, you better be hoping they're just taking a shower, if you know what I mean. But, so gray water is going to be a little bit easier than doing it the other way. I'm sorry, I get a little too graphic. It's time for me to go bye-bye.
So now we're going to go on to Brian Dudley from the DEP, kind of giving the regulatory perspective on things and the DEP's involvement or what they've been talking about with the town. So Brian is also not going to use a PowerPoint, he's just going to share. And then after that, we'll go through the same mode of taking some questions and then opening it up for further discussion. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Tana Marie. I hate being in this position. First of all, you have Sia, who's very bright and energetic and sets a great tone. And then I have to follow the Jerry Seinfeld. It's not where I want to be. Especially when I have to talk about regulations. So I'll keep that as brief as possible. It used to be that when I finished up a session, I could say I'm the Jonathan Papelbon, but I can't do that now. And I certainly can't associate myself with Mariano Rivera, or else I'll be chased out of the room. So, you all know Joe Hanrahan, right? No. He's a new closer. So, my job is to get up, 3 quick outs, and then get out. That's what I'm going to do. Anyway, from a regulatory perspective right now, in regard to composting toilets, and really that's the only alternative toilet that the regulations recognize.